After the Rincon-owned Harrah's and the Casino Palma, it was time for the Pala Casino Resort. Pala is about 100 miles from Los Angeles and a little over 50 miles from San Diego. In this video, I will share my personal experiences of the resort and the history of the Pala people. And of course, this video features extensive aerial views. This was my favorite casino of the day. It's bigger than Palma and comparable to Harrah's, and it had the best Christmas decorations. And they have good history and culture exhibits. And I sacrificed good weather so that I could see these decorations. But speaking of history, today the Pala Reservation consists of 12,000 acres. It was established in 1875 for Luiseño Indians, but the majority of Indians, the Capeño Indians, wouldn't arrive until 1903. This is their story. The first recorded history of the Capeño people came in 1795 when a Spanish expedition arrived in the valley. The town of Cupa and its springs became a natural way station on the routes from the Arizona desert to the California coast. The springs were made available to each family by a series of pipes and flumes. The Indians used the hot springs for bathing, washing clothes, and for medicinal purposes. The Capeño were one of the first Native American tribes in Southern California, numbering approximately 1,000 individuals. They once occupied a territory of 10 square miles in a mountainous region at the headwaters of the San Luis Rey River. The complex Capeño social organization, which began to develop around 10,000 to 12,000 AD, is essentially a blend of Cahuilla and Luiseño social rituals. Cultures and geography overlapped, but government remained separate. The Mission San Luis Rey and Mission San Diego maintained outstations at Cupa until the missions were secularized in 1834. The Capeño became Christians during the mission era while also maintaining their own religion. They also learned agriculture, which led them to be farmers in addition to being hunter-gatherers. In 1844, Governor Alvarado granted 47,500 acres of land, including the majority of the Capeño homeland, to cattleman Juan Jose Warner, hence Warner's Hot Springs. In 1851, some of the Indians led a revolt against the Warner's Ranch. They burned many of the ranch's buildings, which resulted in much of the Capeño village being burned down in retaliation. Eventually, Warner left the ranch after clearing his name from the title. In 1880, the land was purchased by former Governor John Downey. He and his family filed a lawsuit to have the Capeños evicted. This led to a fight all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, culminating in a judgment to remove the Indians in 1901. In 1902, Charles Fletcher Lummis learned that 300 Capeños residing on Warner's Ranch were being evicted from their ancestral homeland. With the promise of support from President Theodore Roosevelt, Secretary of the Interior Ethan Hitchcock, and Indian Commissioner W.A. Jones, Lummis approached the Indians and offered to purchase land outside the Warner Ranch for them. But let's be real, it wasn't really a friendly offer. Lummis and the Warner's Ranch Indian Advisory Commission set out to conduct a survey of ranches to find an acceptable location. At the conclusion, the commission recommended that the government purchase 3,438 acres in Pala for $46,230. But the selling price was $245,000. Through an interpreter, the captain of the Capeños said that they did not want any other land, and that they would choose to die if the Pala location wasn't purchased. However, the relocation to Pala was not a happy or triumphant occasion. On the morning of May 12, 1903, Bureau Indian Affairs agent James Jenkins arrived at the Capeño village at Warner Springs Ranch with 44 armed teamsters to carry out the eviction. There was not much room in the wagons, so many belongings were left behind and they were never allowed to go back for them. In spite of insisting on the purchase of Paula, they did not want to leave their ancestral home. The last survivor of the relocation recalled lots of crying and the teamsters throwing their belongings into the carts. The 40-mile journey from the Capeño village to Paula took 3 days because they had to go around Palomar Mountain, as seen in this map. The Capeños call this journey their Trail of Tears. When the Paula finally arrived, there were tents and a rundown mission, and also Luceño Indians who were already living on the land. The Capeño people would have to live in tents until portable houses were supplied by the government. So, to recap, in 1903, the Capeño Indians were evicted from their ancestral lands on current-day Warner Springs Ranch and moved by the government to Paula. The move was devastating as they had a strong spiritual connection to their old lands. This removal, along with the loss of lands for other tribes and the loss of water rights, led to the establishment of the Mission Indian Federation. The Mission Indian Federation was established in 1919 by a Morongo Indian, Julio Norte, with help from Jonathan Tibbet, a non-Indian resident of Riverside, California. They called him Buffalo Heart. However, the federal government did not like the new commission, and numerous Federation officers and supporters were indicted and jailed or fired. The Federation appeared 270 times between 1932 and 1970 before congressional committees and subcommittees in an attempt to secure for Indians the rights, privileges, and freedoms afforded other Americans. A federal agent lived on the Paula Reservation to allow the Bureau of Indian Affairs to spy on their activities. And federal employees controlled a jail near the mission, which caused further intimidation. The Indians also disliked the diversion of waters from the San Luis Rey River to local cities. At this time, the California Indians were legally designated as wards of the federal government. This meant that they were viewed as having no self-sufficiency. They had less rights than immigrants from other countries, and the fear of fines or imprisonment prevented the community from holding meetings, discussing issues, or planning strategy in their own village. Federation meetings were held in Riverside, California, a 53-mile one-way trip. Sometimes a member would sell a cow to be able to send a Federation leader to Washington, D.C. By the early 1930s, the Federation consisted of 30 Indian reservations and more than 30,000 individual members. Despite pressures to disband, most of the reservations in Southern California, as well as some in the Grand Canyon area, had delegates on the Federation board. The Mission Indian Federation lasted until the 1960s, when it was replaced by smaller, more localized organizations. In the end, the Mission Indian Federation played an important role in obtaining full citizenship for Indians along with other victories. With the passage of the 2000 Proposition 1A, the Paula Casino opened in 2001. Today, the Capeño people and the Luceño people live in harmony and consider themselves as one people, the Paula. They have a council of 6 elected leaders who set public policy, annual budgets, and maintain local schools. As for my own experience, I got a Starbucks Frappuccino at their cafe. Always a good idea. I'm always interested in the dining options of a particular place, and Bar Meets Grill was the fanciest restaurant that I saw. They used to have a buffet, but they do not currently have one. And I really just enjoyed all these Christmas decorations. It was sad that the back was torn out and exposed a lot of mud because they're doing some kind of renovations. Then I went to the noodle restaurant and I got the Paula signature with roasted duck. Unfortunately, there was too much noodles and the duck had a little too much fat. But hey, the water was good. Next time I would ask them to go light on the noodles, heavier on the veggies, and I think it might be better. I also got to visit their service station, which I definitely liked more than the Rincon station, and it was approaching roof-raising pachanga vibes. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe and hit the thumbs up in the spirit of self-reliance.